You may recall that the Gavia Stelvio stage was cancelled due to weather last year, so I'm assuming things will be fine this time around. Oh. Well, fortunately teams were decently well prepared, and while breakaway rider Dario Cataldo of Team Sky didn't wait, many others slowed up or stopped to take on gear at the top of the Stelvio. Here's Movistar's Gorka Izagirre in his handsome neck gaiter. Visibility was iffy, but Cataldo certainly wasn't pulling any punches, nor was our friend in the neck gaiter, diving inside this bend at 58k to go. Overall leader Rigoberto Urán of Omega Pharma Quickstep took it more cautiously, and once people thawed out enough to eat and figure out what was going on, Quintana's group had gained a surprising 2 minutes. There have been rumors of neutralization, but I will direct you to UCI Rule 2.0.001. Quintana's lead briefly fell, but Izagirre took off his neck gaiter, let forth a string of profanity, and whipped up the pace just inside 22k to go. 3 kilometers later, Quintana attacked, taking Europcar's Pierre Roland and Garmin's rider Hessedal with him. They caught and dropped Cataldo a k later, and for the next 12 kilometers, Quintana rode at the front, towing his companions and second by second putting more time into Urán. Roland finally cracked at 5k to go. Hessedal took a few turns at 4k, but Quintana dispatched him around the final absurd hairpin corners to cap off a historic solo effort and stage win. A splintered GC group didn't come in until 3.5 minutes later, catapulting Quintana into the overall lead by 1 minute and 40 seconds, and leaving third place Cadel Evans less than a minute ahead of the next 6 competitors. As you might imagine, things were a bit more relaxed. The next day, the group tried to keep a very large break within 12 minutes or so, while team cars comically failed to clear tight bends. OPQS's Thomas de Gent kicked off the attacks around 30k to go and soloed for quite a while before Bardiani CSF's Stefano Pirazzi bridged across up the short, steep Ca del Poggio. 3 more riders caught on, and after a couple of hero pulls, they fell into a recognizable pace line, while Pirazzi's teammates consistently disrupted any effort of the group behind to chase. The position jockeying began around 3k, and just outside the final kilometer, Pirazzi jumped clear. It wasn't overwhelmingly powerful, but his brakemates seemed initially unwilling to chase, and the Bardiani rider measured his effort well, having enough time to celebrate before taking his team's 3rd stage win of the Giro. Stage 18, uphill finish, big break, and as much as I appreciate Dario Cataldo's pluck, did he think this was a different Julian Arredondo than the previous 17 stages? Still, with the GC group leaving a healthy 6-minute gap, motivation was high in the escape, and once again, de Gent kicked off the attack 16 kilometers from the end. Cannondale's Ivan Basso made a few digs from the chasers, but was dropped in successive attacks before Arredondo decided to make his move 4k out. A few minutes down the road, attacks flew from the GC group, most notably Europcar and Pierre Roland. Evans fell well off the pace, and while Movistar tried to protect their leader, they rapidly ran out of riders. Fortunately, once Roland got away, Quintana could rely on OPQS's defense of Urán's GC position to set the tempo for him. Ahead, Arredondo limped in for the stage win, and while Astana's Fabio Aru did claw back a few seconds, Quintana showed himself more than up to the task of defending his lead. I cannot imagine how uneager most riders are for this stage this late in the race. Certainly course security seemed to be pretty sick of their jobs. Hessedal, who would have been second overall if not for his team's mishap on stage 1, had a miserable ride, with mechanicals and an eventual catch by AG Desert's Domenico Pozzovivo. Tinkoff Saxo's Rafael Majka, who didn't even have that bad a ride, was caught by an on-fire Aru who rode his way into 3rd overall, but no one was beating Quintana because these boots were made for riding up mountains, and he took the stage from Aru by 17 seconds, 13 of which came in the final kilometer. 4th uphill finish in a week. This one is stupidly steep, but at least the locals were well prepared with banners and manual assists. In the break, giant Shimano's Simon Geschke set tempo, a feat of manliness that probably put an inch onto his beard over the course of the climb. But the sprier Mick Rogers of Tinkoff Saxo and Bardiani's Manuel Bongiorno slowly worked their way clear around 5k to go. Bongiorno tried a surge at 3.5k, but the Italian was shortly thereafter derailed by a fan push, leaving Rogers solo. Meanwhile, OPQS's Wout Poels put on a pain-face clinic, towing Urán and Quintana clear of the GC group, but steady pacemaking from Pozzovivo kept the gap to the Colombian duo within 30 seconds, leaving Evans the only major rider to lose places in the overall. With the GC decided, the race's initial Maglia Rosa, Svein Tuft, one of 2 Orica Green Edge riders still in the race, made the first real attack at 45k to go. The move actually stuck for a good 27 kilometers, but Sky and Cannondale were desperate to get Ben Swift and Elia Viviani another chance at a sprint. Giant Shimano sat back this time, tending to Luka Mesjic in the final kilometers, almost a bit too closely, but leaving him on his own in the lead-out. He got a little swamped, but the bodies kept him out of the wind and left him to wind up his sprint under shelter all the way until he hits the front at 50 meters to go with a head of steam and cruises to the win. I'm Cosmo Catalano, and that's how the race was won.